Hey, sports porchers, it's your hockey Jesus, and I'm back with game 45 analysis of the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, actually, this is going to be analysis of two games because I didn't give you a synopsis of the night before's game versus Ottawa, the Senators, and I have some bad news to report to you, Pittsburgh Penguins fans. And I have some good news to report for the rest of the Eastern Conference. If you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, they're back to their old ways. And it's really just disappointing when the team can play so well against a team like Edmonton, pull it together, get a great goalie effort from Ned, and then a couple nights later, just absolutely fall apart in the first period against an Ottawa Senators team. I'm a big fan of the Ottawa Senators team. I think they have a lot of youth, and I think they have a lot of good energy that when they play against the Penguins, it's focused in all the right spots. And I think that's the Pittsburgh Penguins problems against the Senators. They think that they've had their number in the past. They used to just absolutely obliterate the Senators. And, beating them in the Eastern Conference Final to win their second Stanley Cup was just glorious. And I don't think the Senators have forgotten about that. And I think they use that as fuel every time this new younger team is coming up as a barometer as to how much they've come since then and how far the Penguins have actually fallen since then. And I think that's the problem against the Senators. Also, the problem against the Senators was 100% just the weirdest first period I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a weirder first period? There was a goalie challenge. They lost it. And then, Senators come back and they score a power play goal with 2 seconds left. And then all the scrums, man, all the after whistle pushing around and Bunning pulling people down and getting a penalty because, he pulled somebody down. And then the shorty that happened on the power play for the Senators. And before you know it, they were down 4-0. And that's only happened a couple other times. And they've lost both of those times, the Pittsburgh Penguins have. And I don't know. That game was just absolutely bizarre. I have to admit, I got a little distracted because I'm also watching NFL football playoffs at the same time. But that first period was just wild. I was watching the alternative telecast that Sportsnet had together because Dubas was on the whole first period while all that was going on. Oh, and of course the Penguins give up the first goal on the first shot again. Ned, after having a great game against Edmonton, gives up the first goal on the first shot. Somebody please explain to me how the Pittsburgh Penguins can get snake bitten like that. At least they didn't give up the first goal in the first shot against Tampa. But we'll get to Tampa in a second. So, and I'm watching that, and Dubas is just like, kind of shaking his head, just kind of like, wow, he wasn't really paying too much attention to the game. He said, it was kind of tough that, challenging that first goal because the guy's in the crease, but, did he really interfere? That's a 50-50 call. And it was interesting to hear Dubas's take on that. The other thing that Dubas was talking about, which I thought was really interesting, was the fact that, he's younger than Sid and Geno. And, the question was asked, how do you feel about that? And he had a really good answer. He's been in hockey for over 10 years now. So even though he's the GM and, the president of hockey operations, he's like, I've been through this before. So he said, if it would have been my first gig, I would have probably felt a little funny about it. He coached, he was on the team when Spezza was there, and Spezza that was in Toronto, and Joe Thornton was in Toronto for a little bit while he was there, and those guys were older than him. He said it was weird. I think that's why Spezza's right now in the Pittsburgh organization, because I think those two guys have a good rapport with each other. Spezza's a good hockey mind too. So even though he did play for Ottawa, I think it's hilarious that he's talking about Spezza, who's a huge Ottawa guy, and they're playing against Ottawa as they're getting shellacked in the first period. So that Ottawa game was just bizarre, but it's all about goalie problems, like the sign says back there. Ned just couldn't get it together ever, and the Penguins, they were going to have a goose egg at some point, just because that was at that point that was Geno's third game off. He had his fourth game off. They put him on the IR, so he's going to be out for a little while. Don't know what's wrong with him, but that's a problem because today in the Tampa Bay game, Bunning, of course, serendipity for Tampa Bay, but just bad karma for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Bunning gets into a car accident on his way to the game today. So their second and third lines, I call it the middle six, look like this. Glass, Drew O'Connor, Tomasino on the second line. Ugh. And on the third line, you had Hayes, Pugliarvi, and Bolivier. That is not that's a terrible middle six. If that's your third and fourth lines, okay. I mean, they continue to keep Achari and Nieto and Lizotte on that fourth line. I don't know why. Exhibit A, I wish I had the video. I'm not going to put up the video, but the goal that broke the Camel's back tonight against Tampa, all tied up. Pittsburgh got a power play goal to tie it up early in the third. They're playing, it looks like they're playing for, the loser point again. We'll get to the loser point here in a second. And Achari just gives the puck up. To who? Kucherov. No, he couldn't give it away to some jabroni. He had to give it away to Kucherov. Basically, has a breakaway goal, and he's not going to miss it. Kucherov's not going to miss that goal, and he didn't. That made it 3-2, and two empty nets later, Tampa Bay wins 5-2. That's a -8 in 2 games, and the Pittsburgh's point differential is at -34. -34. That is not going to get you in the playoffs. And I told you at the beginning, right at the half. And since the half, they've played 4 games, and they've been absolutely horrendous in those 4 games. They have one outstanding win. They tied Columbus, so they have 3 out of 8 possible points at a homestand at a critical point after you're going to go on an away trip after this. You got one more homestand against Seattle. You're going away for 7 games on the road. This team could be in big, big trouble if they don't get it together. But here's the rub. They have lost 6 losses in their last 7 games, okay? However, because of the good old loser point, and you know how Hockey Jesus feels about the loser point. I don't even use it when I talk about standings. Because of the loser point, they got 6 points in that one in only winning 1 games out of 14 possible points. That just keeps them right in it, especially when the other teams in the league. And I'm talking about the whole Eastern Conference. I'm not talking about the top 6 that are definitely making the playoffs. I'm talking the Boston Bruins the whole way down to the Buffalo Sabres. There's only 10 points that separate these teams. So the Pittsburgh Penguins are 3 points right now. And I hate doing this because I know, some teams have played more games than others. I'll do a better analysis after I pull up, I normalize the points versus the games. But I can tell you that the Pittsburgh Penguins are at the top when it comes to games played. So even though they're only 3 points from a playoff position, they're 7 points away from getting the number 1 pick. Well, maybe. I mean, it depends on what happens in the Western Conference, but at least the number 1 pick in the East. And that's how close it is. And that's what the loser point does. It jumbles everybody together. It makes it hard to jump over teams. It makes it hard to drop too low, but it also makes it tougher to rise to the top. And that's what's happening to the Pittsburgh Penguins now. Since December 17th, and since December 17th and January 11th, so that would have been against the game versus Ottawa, they were absolutely trending in that 82 to 84 points. Now, with these last 2 losses, It looks like they're trending down again, back to the 80 point. And I told you, they needed to start moving from the 82, 84, 86, 88. If they're going to go from 84 to 82 to 80, it's actually time to start thinking about selling away some picks. And I am not a big fan of selling anybody, but I can tell you the way Raquel's playing right now, he could pull a pretty penny on the seller's market. I still think they need to get rid of Pettersson. They're stuck with, we all know, they're stuck with Karlsson. There's no way to get around that. But I think we're very soon, if this continues this way, if they can't fix their goalie problems. They tried to bring Ned. They tried to make him the number one goalie. I have said this 100 times. I will say it 1,000 times. Ned is not a number one goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a great backup, but he is absolutely not a number one goalie. Tristan Jarry is not a number one goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins or anybody in the NHL. Absolutely nobody. They should cut the guy. If they really want to make a move, they should cut him. If they want to lose more games, they should play him more. That's the way I feel about Tristan Jarry right now. He is garbage. He's a dumpster fire. No, you can't rely on him. He had a .750 save percentage. He had 2 goals scored on 8 shots, and he ended up at .818. I told you he needed to be at 900 save percentage. He can't get it done. So, Pittsburgh Penguins, I actually had on my notes not goalie problems. I had free falling. They're not in free fall yet, but I can tell you they're not that far away from free falling when you talk about a 7-game road trip coming up. But before then, Tuesday night, the Pittsburgh Penguins play against the Seattle Kraken. They're a pretty bad team in the West, so they have to get these 2 points. That would give them 5 out of 8 on the home trip. I said 6 minimum. I really said that. I really meant it, that they needed all 8. Once again, if they get 5, it's so close to 6. But it's still lower, not higher. They got to start winning games again like they did before. 5, 6 games in a row. That's the only way I'm going to change my opinion about this team not being sellers in the very near future. Hey, thanks for stopping by. If you like what you hear, smash that subscribe button. I think it's down here. And I'm your hockey Jesus. I'm going to tell the truth, whether you like it or not. Pittsburgh Penguins are not in free fall, but they need to get it together. They need to figure out their goalie problems. And actually, they need to probably get Geno back, because even a bad Geno on the second line is much better than Cody Glass center in that second line. So I'll see you Tuesday night. Pittsburgh Penguins fans, keep the faith. Let's go Pens. Hockey fans everywhere, enjoy your team, and I'll see you in the next one.